talk about an accident. Specifically, a musical accident that worked out well.
You're talking about the drums on Ticket to Ride?
Yep, that's exactly what I was thinking of, Cass. You read my mind.
It's one of those essential moments, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't just define a song, but it inadvertently redefines an entire genre.
Right, and for you listening, our mission today is to really get into why the drumming on Ticket to Ride, this massive pop single, sounds so different.
So much heavier.
So much heavier than anything else from early 1965. We went through studio notes, musical analysis, and the story is just, it's startling.
It is, and this wasn't just some studio trickery, or clever mixing. Though that's a huge part of it.
We'll get to that.
We will. But it was a fundamental shift in how drums worked in pop music. And it all came from, really, an instinctual choice from Ringo. It's the sound of the band turning a deviation into genius.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Imagine it's early 1965. You put on the radio. You hear the Beatles singles from right before Ticket to Ride. So, 8 days a week, I feel fine.
Or their contemporaries. Herman's Hermits, Jerry, and the Pacemakers.
Exactly. And it's all very uniform in a way. It's clean, upbeat, cheerful pop. The drumming is efficient. It does its job.
It's functional. The drumming style back then was really designed to just serve the melody, keep that danceable rhythm going, a secondary texture, really.
And then you put on Ticket to Ride.
And the difference is just, it's instant. It's visceral. The whole song has this incredible weight to it that the other records just didn't have.
Yeah, one of the sources we read called it a thudding insistence. And that's perfect. It's this rhythmic urgency that feels almost ominous.
It does.
For 1965, it is astonishingly proto-heavy metal. Why is that?
It's because the drums stop being just timekeepers. They're not just in the background anymore. They become a primary melodic element.
So what was the standard beat at the time?
Well, think about it. The snare drum gave you that crisp backbeat, on beats 2 and 4. And the bass drum was used really subtly.
Right, just for timekeeping.
Exactly. The focus was meant to be on the vocals, the guitars. But on Ticket to Ride, the drums are loud. They're right there in your face.
They feel central to the song's whole mood. It's a groove that defines the song's character just as much as John's vocal.
You actually start listening to the rhythm, not just through it. And that's the stage for everything that comes next in rock.
It's the sound of the band discovering a darker, more powerful sound.
Even if by accident. You just couldn't mistake that rhythm for anything else on the radio that spring.
So it's not just the simple backbeat we're used to. This new low end gives it kind of gravitational pull.
And that brings us to the sessions. February 1965, EMI Studios. This is where the technical deviation happens.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for anyone who plays an instrument or just loves the details. What exactly did Ringo do?
He doubled up the biggest pieces of his kit, the biggest drums. He played the floor tom and the bass drum together at the same time.
The floor tom, that's the largest one, right? Sits on the floor, gives the lowest tone.
That's the one. And usually you'd say that for fills, or big accents.
Not for the main beat of the entire song.
Never. But by pairing that deep, booming floor tom with the punch of the bass drum, the kick, he created that thudding sound that drives the whole track.
So if he'd only used the bass drum, it would have just sounded
conventional. It would have lost all its heaviness. It's that floor tom that adds the melodic contour, that low texture.
Let's break that down for people trying to picture it. It's still a standard 44 rock beat.
Oh yeah, it's straightforward. The snare is still hitting on 2 and 4, your classic pop backbeat.
Right.
But the main engine is now that floor tom and bass drum hitting together on 1 and 3.
Thud, thwack, thud, thwack.
Exactly. That insistent, repetitive pulse. That's the song.
One source we looked at pointed out something fascinating. Because the floor tom has a definite tone, a low pitch, it actually gave the rhythm a melody.
Right.
You couldn't really hum the drum part to say, I want to hold your hand, but you can absolutely hum the beat to Ticket to Ride.
Which says so much about Ringo's instinct. I mean, it might have started as a mistake, a slip of the stick, who knows? But he realized instantly that the wrong way was way more interesting.
So was it really an error? I mean, some argue Ringo was too precise for that. Maybe he was just experimenting.
That's the great debate, isn't it? But whether it was pure accident or calculated experiment, the genius is in the decision to keep it. It shows he was listening to the whole sonic picture, not just his own part.
So Ringo creates this incredible heavy beat, but for us to actually hear it, George Martin and the engineers had to be just as revolutionary in the control room.
Absolutely. This is where the production choices are so crucial. You have to remember, this is 1965. They're on 4-track machines.
Which means very limited space.
Very. Tracks were constantly being bounced down, mixing 4 tracks onto one, so you'd lose clarity, you lose dynamic range. It's a zero-sum game if you turn one thing up.
Something else gets lost in the mud.
Exactly. And in 1965 pop, drums were almost always in the background. George Martin's really groundbreaking decision here was to mix the drums on Ticket to Ride way louder and more prominently than on any Beatles record before.
He didn't just capture the performance, he amplified it. He made it the centerpiece.
They treated the drums not as rhythm support, but as a lead texture. It was a massive risk, but it completely paid off. It signaled a huge shift in production philosophy for everybody.
And it really connects to that whole Beatles pattern of productive accidents.
Like the feedback at the start of I Feel Fine.
Right. From late 64, when John just leaned his guitar against an amp, they heard it and said, let's use that.
But that's the difference, The I Feel Fine feedback is a cool effect. It's a gimmick, a brilliant one. But the Ticket to Ride drum part is structural.
It's the foundation.
Yes. It changes the entire feel of the song from the first beat to the fade out. And you can draw a straight line from this track in 65 to something like Tomorrow Never Knows or Rain just a year later.
With those revolutionary percussion-heavy soundscapes.
It all starts right here. The willingness to let the drums be loud, unconventional, and drive the whole song.
So let's zoom out. What does this all mean for rock history? A pop music accident helps invent a totally different genre.
The ripple effect is just huge. Ringo accidentally showed everyone that you could use the deeper, lower tones of the kit, that floor tom and bass drum combo, to make the sound heavier, more authoritative.
It proved the floor tom could basically be a lead instrument.
Right? And this idea became foundational for all the heavy music that came later.
So you're talking about bands like Led Zeppelin.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Think of John Bonham's massive sound. His whole signature was the sheer power he got from his kit, with that relentless heavy emphasis on the kick drum, the bass drum, that desire for a drum sound that was just huge and dominating. Ticket to Ride foreshadows it completely.
And what about someone like Keith Moon of The Who? His style was so chaotic, all those tom fills.
Moon is another perfect example. His thing was refusing to just play a simple backbeat. He used those big, low-pitched toms to create these cascades of sound. Ticket to Ride showed that you could break free from the snare and hi-hat and let the toms define the groove. It gave permission to a whole generation of drummers to be loud and dramatic.
The irony is just fantastic. The Beatles, the band people don't usually credit with influencing heavy metal.
Right.
They basically provided the foundational drum sound for the entire genre, and it was hidden inside this massive pop hit.
And because it was such a huge hit, the innovation was instantly cemented as canon. This wasn't some weird B-side. Ticket to Ride was #1 everywhere in April 1965.
So millions of people heard it, thousands of kids in garage bands heard it, and immediately tried to figure out what Ringo was doing.
The mistake became the new rule overnight.
I find this story so satisfying because Ringo has spent decades sort of defending his drumming as simple or adequate.
And this story just demolishes that myth. It shows that drumming is about so much more than just speed or complexity.
It's about taste, about feel.
Exactly. The brilliance here is its simplicity. It's a straightforward rhythm, but it's played with this unique, inspired choice of what to emphasize. It took true musical instinct to know that the wrong choice was actually the better one.
And that's the real lesson for you listening, isn't it? Innovation doesn't always come from being a technical virtuoso. Sometimes it's just about doing something simple but differently and with perfect timing.
He wasn't just keeping time. He was laying down a new template for hard rock.
And the final irony is, because the song is so catchy, most people don't even notice. They're listening to ground zero for heavy rock drumming, and it's hiding in plain sight.
That heavy, dark vibe. It was so powerful compared to everything else on the radio. It wasn't just a great song. It was a loud prediction of a louder future.
I think the story of Ticket to Ride just reminds us that in any creative work, mistakes are just. They're opportunities, they're chances to discover something better than what you originally planned. The best innovations happen when you just decide to keep the accident.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Whenever you feel like knowing more about the Beatles, visit us at BeatlesRewind.com. Every day, we do something new there. Song reviews, album reviews, movie reviews, book reviews, documentaries, trivia, all things Beatles. Every day, 8 days a week. You can find us on the website, BeatlesRewind.com. You can subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Amazon Podcasts, practically anywhere on the inner tubes. The Beatles, all day, every day. Kaz will do it again tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Farewell for now.
Until next time, when you listen.
Your mind conducts its own beat.